Hey, JW Oker here. I am looking for the scattered bones of an old mental institution. I'm in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Foxborough is the home of the Foxborough State Hospital. Now, the Foxborough State Hospital started or was built in the 1890s, but back then it was a institution for people with alcohol problems. Dipsomaniacs and inebriates, I think, were the terms back then, which are really cool terms. They just happen to describe a really sad condition and state of affairs. But it became a mental institution in the early 1900s. So, 20 years later, 25 years later, after it opened, it became a mental institution, which is what it was for a good half a century until the 1970s, when it started to close down, as all those big mental institutions across New England and the country started to do. It took about 2 decades to really wind it down as an institution, from 1975 to the mid-1990s. But when it finally did, it left all of these abandoned, empty, institutional type buildings. Large buildings that were just rotting in the middle of Foxborough. So right around 2005, they started fixing things. They started tearing buildings down that were part of the institution. They started renovating other ones. And today there's not a lot left of Foxborough State Hospital, but there is a little bit, and I wanted to go chase it down today. I've got a little bit of time actually in this area for different reasons, but obviously I'll put that stuff off until I see pieces of a mental institution. So this is the State Hospital Cemetery, and there's the words right there: dipsomaniacs and inebriates. So I've been to a few mental institution cemeteries before. They're usually anonymous. There's usually a lot of stones that look the same, that just have numbers on them or are blank, no identifying marks on them. Every once in a while you come across some that, like, the local historical society has fixed up and matched to actual names and replaced the stones and turned it into a proper cemetery. This cemetery, the Foxborough State Hospital Cemetery, is anonymous. There are just numbers on the stones, and a lot of the stones aren't here anymore. So I'll show you those, take a look at those, and they'll be off to the next site. You can barely just make out that number there. It's a really swampy little cemetery right now because we had rain on top of the snow last night. And this is right on a residential street, cross street in Foxborough. There's a house on either side of the cemetery, houses across the street, and houses on the other side. Looks like the numbers are easier to read over here. Check it out. All right, I'm on Payson Road, Payson, which isn't too far away from the cemetery, literally just a block or two, looking for this next building, which I just passed because I was talking to you. Okay, so this is the auditorium for the hospital. It's still standing, still boarded up. It's one of the abandoned buildings that hasn't quite found a use for itself. And I don't know much of the story behind it. It's just the auditorium building for the Foxborough State Hospital. I'm going to show you that here in 2 seconds. All right, so I'm across the street at what's now called Chestnut Green, which is housing and office space, pretty much. Brand new housing, as you can see, and then that brickwork you just saw was part of the old building. So it's basically been completely transformed. The campus that was once the Foxborough State Hospital. You can see right there in the corner there, those little cupolas. There's still traces of the original architecture. Some of the buildings were saved. I'm gonna try to find my way to those main buildings right now as I drive past all the less interesting new housing. So here we go. This is what remains of Foxborough State Hospital. Now Chestnut Green apartments. All right, I'm gonna try to get farther back so we can get a good view of the whole building without those trees in the way. And I want to also see those cupolas up top that are very distinctive. And if you look at old photos of the hospital, you'll see them right there. All right, and that's what I have for you. Just some everyday spaces of Foxborough, Massachusetts that once upon a time weren't so everyday. Now I gotta go get to my thing because I'm late, although well worth it for this. Why were you late? I had to go see what happened to an old mental institution. Obviously.